Welcome to Ilim Chu TV. Today I have someone very exciting and someone I admire very much for a long time. And he's Wong King, better known as Toon. And maybe we'll let him share about himself for us, because I think he's got the most exciting life, which we will all want to have. Welcome to Ilim Chu TV, Toon. Well, I know of your past. I think let's talk about your beginning. I think you are a scholar.
Yeah.
And you went to MIT.
Right.
Maybe you would like to share with us your adventure.
Yes, well, when I was really young, my mother worked in some of the biggest houses in Singapore. My mother was a maid. So in Holland Village, Leiden Park, Bin Tong Park, we would live in the servants' quarters, and I would be exposed to what I call the high life. So I guess I can say I've learned the finer taste of living by being exposed to that kind of living. Yet, while we were rather financially poor, my parents gave me so much love that I never felt, or me and my sister, never felt poor at all. And never felt the lack of it at all. And so we grew up with this amazing love from my parents, unconditional. They weren't very educated, so they couldn't really get involved in our education. They didn't know what I was trying to do, what were my dreams, but they just gave me love. So that was the background. Essentially, I went to MIT on a scholarship, and I had 4 wonderful years, and then I came back.
And then you came back, you are supposed to start working with, because it's a scholarship, right?
Yeah, so I was on a MIT scholarship from National Computer Board, which merged with IDA, and which now merged with media. And so now I don't even know what it's called. Infocom Media Authority or something? Yeah. Well, if you hear my view about that, if the way the internet and technology goes, that will merge with everything in Singapore, because ultimately everything will be internet, yeah.
But this word internet was not known when you came back, right?
Yes, I started working for NCB, National Computer Board, and I was the first IT architect. Now, I don't really know what that meant, but the idea was Singapore had a vision to become an intelligent island. And to do that, we had to network the whole country. So we were studying what kind of networking technologies would allow us to connect the entire island and automate many functions. Because prior to that, it was really about computerization. So you had silos of automation. But where we were headed was to link everything into a network to become more intelligent. So I was the first IT architect, and I got involved in this. And we started a small group within National Computer Board, Digital Media Center, DMC, which looked at all this technology and the internet. And so we were the early pioneers of understanding this internet and its implications in Singapore in 1993. Yeah.
Okay.
I think before many of our audience were born, actually.
Yeah, I think a lot of young people don't know the history, I think.
Yeah.
And then you went on to start something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in '94, 5 years after I graduated from MIT, I went back to MIT. Every 5 years we have a reunion. So I made it back, and I met my friend, Henry, who was doing his PhD in computer science. He had done his bachelor's like me in computer science and engineering. And I said, Henry, what are you doing? He says, hey, TK, I'm going to drop out. I'm like, what? Drop out of a PhD program at MIT? I mean, you know how hard it is to get in, right? He said, absolutely. But you know, TK, this internet thing, right? I said, yeah. It probably comes only once in a person's lifetime, a transformation. So I'm dropping out, and I'm going to start my thing. I said, gee, you are 10 times smarter than me. If you're going to do it, when I fly back, the first thing I'm going to do is also do a startup with this internet thing, right? So I flew back, and then I realized, oh, I have a bond. I have a bond, yeah. And it lasts for 8 years. Then,
so you're still on the 5th, 6th year?
Yeah, so I spoke to my boss, and I said, boss, I want to do a startup. How can I get released from this bond? So he said, well, you know, we can't set a lot of precedents in this thing, you know. So, you know, remember at that time there were some bond breakers who were featured in the front page.
So,
Yeah, who didn't come back.
Yes,
So it was a very sensitive topic. But I said, you know, boss, for me it's different. I'm not leaving the country. I'm actually very excited because this internet revolution is a chance for me to pioneer something. Now, I applied for this scholarship and I went to MIT because I wanted to pioneer an industry. I don't want to just be part of industry. I want to pioneer an industry in IT. So he heard me, but again, he, you know, like every civil servant, it's very hard for them to pull the trigger. So I did something rather naughty.
expect from you, right?
Yeah.
It has to be expected.
Yeah, and probably with the hand of God. There happened to be an exhibition that was going to start. I talked to the manager there and I was given the chance to build the website for them when I showed them this technology. And then they said, great, we'll give you a booth, you can set up, you can also explain what you're trying to do. And I said, wow, I guess I can start my company. And then somehow the press got wind of it and interviewed me, Business Times. And so that night, I remember I had to walk into my boss's office at NCB and I said, boss, you know that thing I asked you about? He said, yes. I think we need to do something about it because tomorrow my company is being launched. And he said, I could remember that jaw-dropping silence, you know, for a while. He looked at me, he said, well, I guess we'll have to approve it, won't we? Yeah, so I guess by the fate of God, I was released. So they were kind enough. Also thanks to a person called Philip Yeo, who was our chairman, a very visionary person whom I respect a lot. He understood what I was doing, so they gave their blessing for me to have a 2-year leave of absence from my bond. And if I succeeded, well and good, I could pay back the bond. If I didn't, I could come back and serve back. Yeah, so
You did. Yeah, and you started?
I started a company in 1994 called Silk Road Ventures, and it was the first internet company in Singapore.
Your journey, you know, for Silk Road Ventures.
Yeah.
You eventually sold it?
Yeah, so what happened was our vision was to create the digital Silk Road of the 21st century to facilitate e-commerce. Now, mind you, that was 1994. Some of these words, I think we all didn't really understand what we were saying, but essentially we felt that just like the real Silk Road that facilitated commerce, we felt that the potential of the internet was to facilitate e-commerce. Today we take that for granted. Today we buy, sell, there's billions transacted. But those are really the early days.
It must have been tough going to Silicon Valley or going overseas as a Singaporean, Singapore company, you know, and is it tough when you went overseas? Because maybe people all know the successful part of what you have done, but what are the challenges that we went through and what you persevered to overcome?
Well, you know, Elaine, that's a wonderful question because I said I was 50 now, so there's a chance to reflect on those days. I was 29 when I started and about 34 when I exited, you know, with some money, enough to be financially independent. But when I look back, I realized that when you get money from venture capitalists, there is no such thing as free money. Everyone wants you to grow and grow fast, and obviously because they want their returns and exit. There is a real consequence to that. You know, it's very punishing on the people in the company, and we don't stop to think how much it impacts on people's lives, you know. Trying to work like robots, you know, working fast, hyper growth. It all sounds really sexy when we were doing it and when you read. But I suppose when I've done it, I can also see the impact that is caused in the back. There are many successful entrepreneurs today that we admire, that if you look into the back, in their families, the number of divorce cases, families that have been torn apart or the sacrifices they've made. There have been many of these consequences. So I think it's really important going forward to find a way to do this sustainably, because ultimately we are human, you know, and I think there's a big price to pay when you only look at growth at all costs. Yeah.
There's always a balance, right?
Yeah.
It's always hard.
Yeah.
So you had to overcome all the challenges when you went overseas.
Yes. Yeah, I flew every 2 weeks. Our startup was in 9 cities across Asia and Silicon Valley. I basically worked around the clock because there were different time zones that I had to call into teleconference. You know, every 2 weeks I had to fly until the air stewardess would always say, "Hello, Mr. Wong, welcome back. Coffee, no sugar, right?" I said, "Yes." And it was like taking a bus shuttle, you know, to America, you know, a 24-hour flight, and visiting all my other presences. And there was a night, I remember, I woke up in the dark in a hotel room, and I stared at the ceiling for 10 minutes and said, "Where am I?" And I had no clue.
So was there the awakening moment?
Yes, well, in 2001, the internet went down, right? There was a big dot-com crash. And that was the time when my companies were just about to list. One of my companies that I brought to Silicon Valley was about to go public on NASDAQ and Singapore Exchange for US $1 billion. But because of the crash, we couldn't go to market. So for some reason, as I said before, God brought me up to the mountain, showed me, "Is the view beautiful?" I said, "Yeah, kind of." Yeah, then says, "Please go down." I said, "Huh?" So I had to walk down the mountain, forego the 1 billion, and ask myself, why did you do this to me? Why did you obviously gave me a lot of talent. You gave me a lot of opportunity and luck, and now I'm up there. Why can't you help me realize this so that I can inspire many more Singaporeans that we can, that this little island can succeed, we can dream big, we can go to the epicenter of the technology, Silicon Valley, and we can succeed. And here you go. This is a successful case. Why did you take that all away from me, you know? And I spent the last 13, 14 years asking this question. And I have been in the wilderness for the last 14 years.